right, good afternoon. If you're sitting towards the back, you may want to move a little bit further forward. There's some graphics that I have that have slightly smaller details to it, so it will be easier if you're sitting a little bit closer. So just an FYI. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. I am Celeste Barclay. This is Don't Panic, Building Brand Loyalty During Market Shifts. So a little bit about me. I published my first book on April 15th, 2018. I have now published 52 romances across historical and contemporary. I have one that's on the way to the editor, one on the way back from the editor, so I think I'm actually at like 53 and a half, 54 written. I launched the Celeste Barclay brand in 2018. That's the historical brand, and then I launched Sabine Barclay in 2022, and that's Contemporary Mafia. I'm also the 2023 President of NINC, so if you have questions about the organization, it is the premier organization for professional novelists. And I have some education. I've gone to school for a little while, so you'll see that down there. And I admit to you guys, just like I admitted yesterday, I really love the Real Housewives franchises. I promise. It's a guilty pleasure. That and my Coke Zeros and my chai. So let's jump straight into things, right? So what do we know about the market right now, other than, right? We know some uncontrovertible facts that go beyond just publishing. This is the market in general. We know that the KU payouts have been a little lower than they have in the past. Right? We know that ad spends are up. We know that promotional newsletters aren't packing as big a punch as they were before. And we do have a little bit of inflation going on. If you're like me and live in Southern California, a dozen of eggs is about $10. Yeah, I know. And I've got teenage boys who love to have egg sandwiches every morning. Haven't helped me. But the good news, we are in a stage of low unemployment, which means that people have jobs, people have money, and hopefully they have at least a little discretionary spending for our books. And we know that because consumers are spending, continuing to spend, and the economy is continuing to grow. This year did not have the predicted recession that we worried about. So yes, there's some bad news, but the good news actually is to our benefit. So what do we do when the market isn't in our favor or it's kind of so-so? We have two options. We can diversify our portfolio, meaning we can go into translations, audiobooks, hardback, large print. Or we can double down, and we can understand what consumers do and why they do it. Consumer behavior is universal across industries. People are people. We act the same way throughout many different consumer situations. So what I'm going to share with you today is based on consumer behavior theories and facts and rules and laws, if you will, that are applicable to us. And when we understand how consumers behave, then we can anticipate those market shifts and we can weather them. You may want to take some notes. Please feel free to scan this QR code. It takes you to this worksheet that's a PDF that you can download for free on my website. It is a consumer avatar. Show of hands, has anybody ever heard of a consumer or reader or customer avatar before? Okay, keep those hands up. How many of you have filled them out for your readers? Okay, all right. I'm up front so I can see. The rest of you are back there. Shh, I won't tell how many people put their hands down. So feel free, grab this and follow along because we're going to be looking at those goals and values and challenges and pain points. And the better you can understand your readership, the better you're going to fare when the market does things that maybe we don't like so much. So there are 4 main buyer behaviors. I have 3 of them up here right now because those are the ones that are applicable to us. There's a 4th one that's called complex, and that's when people are buying like a washing machine or a car or a house. Now when they're buying small items like our books, right, or our audiobooks. So instead, we have the variety seeking, the dissonance reducing, and the habitual. Now, the variety seeking is probably pretty self-evident, right? They're going to try different things. It doesn't mean that they disliked what they previously had. It means that variety is the spice of life, and they're willing to explore. Your dissonance reducing are the polar opposites. They're the ones who are going, what happens if I regret this? What happens if I don't like it? What happens if I spent money and it's not worth it? And then you have the habitual shoppers. Our goal is to make those variety-seeking and dissonance-reducing readers become habitual ones. So to go against perhaps a little bit of their nature, but in order to create that habitual shopper, we've got to understand their motivations, their behaviors, and make them brand loyal. So within those, we have some attitudes that are pretty prevalent. We have the average spending. Those are the ones who care about quality, but they also care about price. They're the ones who you can appeal to by showing how your books are superior to other people's reviews, right? They want to know that they're going to get a bang for their buck. The spendthrifts. These are the folks who care about quality over other things, right? It's super important to them, which means that they are going to be willing to pay more for the good quality. So emotional marketing works super well on them. If you can pull at the heartstrings, you got them in the bag. The frugal, right? In my mind, I think of Uncle Scrooge from DuckTales. That's how old I am. You know, I see him jumping into that pool with all the money and swimming around in it, and he doesn't want to spend any of it. That's frugal, right? They have a strict budget. They are going to stick with it. You can pry that penny out of my cold, dead hand, but they will spend if they believe that it is worth it. And then you have the expressive. Those are the ones who have the emotional connection. They want the relationship with the brand, which means you. You are your brand. You are a small business. Maybe you're still doing this as a hobby. Maybe you're doing this as a second full-time job. Maybe you're doing this as your primary full-time job. Whatever it is, you are a business. If you want to make even 1 penny off of your books, you are a business. So you're going to want to appeal to them through the accessibility. Leverage social media, right? And then we also have the impulsive, but I think that probably goes without saying, just like variety seeking. So here's where you're going to want to be able to see, right? I have 3 different shoppers, and there's a case scenario for each one of them, all right? So this first shopper is a New Yorker, a Manhattanite. This shopper is gluten-free. This shopper works from home, but has another member of the family who's an entrepreneur. And they drive a Chevy Trax simply so they can have a car, mostly when they're leaving the city. So what types of things do we see here in these photos, right? So think about, do you recognize any of the labels or brands? Do you see any labels or brands repeating? Are there any brands or stores that you think you might recognize? I know, it's really rather small. That's why I said you might want to sit up close. But let's see if I can get my laser pointer. See if it will travel with me. There we go. So take a look here. You may not be able to read the label, but do you see more than one of this? Does it look like a national brand that you probably recognize from Safeway or Piggly Wiggly, or does it look like it might be a little bit more specialty? What is Whole Foods? Okay, so that is a national chain, but is that sort of more of a spendthrift or a frugal shopper's place? What is it? Whole paycheck, yes. As somebody who lives in Southern California, I agree with you. All right, what else do you see? What about, again, let's see if I can find my pointer. Here we go. I'm not sure if you can see super well, but these are like jams and marmalades. Are those looking like those are national brands that you would see, again, at a Safeway, a Piggly Wiggly? Or do they look like they might be a higher end or a specialty store? Higher end, okay. Now, let's think about the amount of stuff that we see here. Do you think this is for a couple or a family? A family, okay. So now let's ask you, from the options down here, do you think they are variety seeking, dissonance reducing, or habitual? Variety seeking, okay. Why do you think that? Okay, so yes, so we've got a couple here. We do have variety because we see that they shop at more than one place, but we do also have some habitual in here because we can see the same label reoccurring. So let's look at the next ones. Are they spendthrifts? Are they impulsive, expressive, frugal, or average spending? What do you think? So impulsive, why do you think impulsive? Okay, so there is, okay, one tub of Ben and Jerry's they might eat tonight. That sounds kind of like a good idea. I have a bit of a raspy throat, and ice cream sounds really good right now. What else are we seeing? Leftovers? Okay, very good. So fresh stuff from Whole Foods, frozen things from Trader Joe's. Trader Joe's, Whole Foods, both national chains. But are they where an economy shopper or a frugal shopper would go? Are they where an average spender would go? Or are they where a spendthrift would go? Okay, so depending upon where you are, right, Trader Joe's and Whole Foods may be considered average, right? In other places, that would be spendthrift. So you have to bear that in mind as well when you are working with a consumer. Their perception and your perception may differ, and you're going to have to reconcile that. But I would say that this shopper, number one, falls mostly in the habitual with some variety-seeking tendencies, and they tend to be between the average spending and the spendthrift. Do you have a question? Exactly. So what was just said is that our interpretation would vary on whether or not this is somebody who's single, a couple, or a family. This is a family of three. Okay? Shopper number two. So shopper number two is a Los Angelinos, lives in the suburbs. They shop for groceries themselves, where shopper one uses grocery delivery services. They have no dietary restrictions. They work from home. Their partner works in an office. Their partner drives an Audi daily to commute, and the other person has a Mercedes but works from home, doesn't drive that often. So what types of things are we seeing here? Let's start with the size of the refrigerator compared to the last one. What can you infer from what I've just told you and what you see? Are they a couple? Are they a family? What do you think? Couple, okay. That's a fair inference. They are, all right. So what else do we see in here? Would we call this name brand? Or is it generic? Name brand, okay. What about right here? I can't believe it's not butter. Is that name brand or generic? It's name brand, but is it top end, medium, or conservative? Frugal. Conservative, okay. It's a spread. It is a margarine vegetable spread. All right. So then, the Ready Whip instead of the Walmart brand right here. Okay, that's a fair question. But but when we see that, what does that tell you? What type of shopper is that? Somebody who is willing to spend more for quality. What type of shopper is that? Those are the ones who are like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to like this or not. Okay, not quite. Frugals are the ones who are like, I'm going to hold on to that penny. Like, it has to be a really good deal. So maybe the Ready Whip was on sale. But chances are this is more along the lines of the average spending, right? This is a person who probably shops on a relative budget, or maybe they do have things that they are willing to spend for, things they are not willing to spend for, right? Do we see any habitual behaviors in here? What tells you that there's some habitual behaviors? A lot of leftovers, okay, what else? Yes, so we've got 2 of the barbecue sauce, we've got 2 of the ranch down here, so they know what they like, right? Okay. Let's move on to shopper number 3. Shopper number 3 is a St. Louisan living in the suburbs. They do not have a grocery delivery. They do not have any dietary restrictions. One person works from home. One person works for the government. The person who commutes drives a Mazda 3 daily, and the person who now works from home drives a Kia Niro. Right? So get that profile into your head. Start making some deductions or inferences on what you're hearing about that, the type of car they drive, where they live. And let's start with the idea of the size of the fridge, right? Is this a couple, just those 2 people, or do you think that they might have children? Okay. All right. So you can see the back of the fridge, but what do you also see down here? Where'd my pointer go? Okay. No children, or could they be older children? Could they perhaps be caretakers of an older parent? But look down here in the freezer. You can see that there's quite a lot of vegetables, frozen vegetables, quite a lot of meat. Then there's 2 pans up here. So what does that tell you about how they eat? Leftovers, what else? They cook. So they are probably folks who shop to make as opposed to shop to immediately eat. So what type of shopper do you think that makes them? On the frugal side, okay? What about variety seeking, dissonance reducing, or habitual? Okay, why do you think that? Okay, all right. What else? Yes, I'm sorry. So variety seeking, because you can mix and match the ingredients. What else do you think? What else can you infer? Okay. Okay. Yeah, so there's certain things that they like and they want to buy more than once, or they go back to them. But let's take a look at these cans for a second. Do these look like they might be a name brand or a generic? Generic, right? But let's look over here. Anybody recognize what brand this is? Crystal Light. So is that generic or is that name brand? Okay. So let's look down here. The pasta sauce, the spaghetti, do those look like perhaps generic or name brand? Generic. But then we can come over here and we can look at these 2 frozen meals, right? Are those name brand or generic? Name brand. But there's 2 different ones. One's a smart one and one's a lean cuisine. Is that a habitual shopper right there? Is that somebody who's brand loyal? No. So why might there be 2 different brands? Whatever was on sale. Very good. So does that make them a spendthrift, an expressive, an impulsive, a frugal, or an average spending? Yes, I would say that they lean towards the frugal side. If there's something that they really like, they think that it's worth it, they will get a name brand, right? So they may have some average spending tendencies. So let's go back to that thought that I asked you at the very beginning. Knowing now what we've kind of pieced together, do you think that this is still a couple, or do you think there could be other members of the family living here? Hint, if it's just a couple, would they really need pans that big? No. Okay, that may very well be, but again, you can see they've got quite a lot of, where'd my clicker go? They've got quite a lot of frozen foods down here. If they shop to make as opposed to shop to eat, then maybe they're never going to have an overflowing. Maybe they buy what they need to consume for the week or the two and then go back. That to me would imply somebody who's frugal. They don't want to waste, right? They're getting frozen vegetables. Maybe they go through a lot of them, or maybe they live somewhere where the produce goes bad. You may not be able to answer all of these questions definitively, but you can make inferences from this. All right, that's fair. Okay, well, I don't know what day of the week this was. Maybe they'd already consumed a whole gallon already. All right. So let's look at how we connect with these different types of shoppers. What is going to resonate with them, right? So let's look at the expressive. They're the ones who want the emotional connection to the brand, and that brand happens to be you, right? And I will preface this by saying that we are in a unique position as being human beings and a brand at the same time. The days of yore, back when you could get to the end of the book and there was a picture of the author and maybe a short bio, and you were left wondering, gee, I wonder what they do in those cabins in the woods in Maine. You know, that's done. People want more access to you. So set your limitations, set your parameters on that, but they want pseudo relationships. That's a whole concept of social media. It's about relationship building, and that is the expressive shopper, right? They are the ones who are going to want evidence. They want to know that they're going to enjoy this, that they are going to connect with this. So these are folks who might really appreciate seeing reviews in the graphics, right? They want something that's aesthetically pleasing, but they want to know what they're going to get out of it. Are they going to be entertained? Are they going to get escapism? Are they going to be scared witless? Are they going to learn something, right? They want to crave, and they do crave, those experiences. So what journey are you going to take them on when they read your book? They do tend to make decisions quickly. Either they love you or they hate you kind of deal. Maybe somewhere in between. So they are a group where you do want to strike while the iron is hot and start building that relationship, right? Give them the opportunity to join your newsletter. Give them the opportunity to follow you on social media. Make sure that you have an automation sequence when they jump onto your newsletter that welcomes them into the fold. Make sure that you are posting, you know, if you have a Facebook group, welcome to the new members, all right? Those are the types of things that they're looking for. The impulsive shopper, all right? These are kind of the trigger-happy ones, the one-clickers, right? They act either without thinking or with minimal thinking. And they also tend to be the variety seekers, right? So you want to be able to give them graphics and ad copy that are going to support that sort of thrill-seeking side of them. Ooh, it's free. It's for a limited time. You can only get it now. You want it to be pretty. Your cover is really going to matter to an impulsive shopper. Because despite what Mrs. O'Neill, my elementary school librarian, told me about don't judge a book by its cover, everybody judges books by its cover. Let's be real, right? So for the impulse and the variety seeking, aesthetics are important. right? So is the verbiage. On this one, let's see again if I can find my pointer somewhere. I don't know where it went. Up at the top it says free book, nice and big, right? That's going to draw in their attention. You know, if they are even remotely dissonance reducing, like, I don't know, will I like this one? Will I not like this one? Free book is going to tap into that impulsive side of them that will overrule the dissonance reducing kind of decision maker. Our frugal shopper, right? These are the easiest to attract because they are looking for a deal. They are scouring. They are not going to spend full price, most likely. So they are looking for that deal. That doesn't necessarily mean that they are the easiest to convert. But in this particular ad copy, we can see a couple of different things. We can see that it's in Kindle Unlimited. We can see that it's 99 cents. We can see that you can read for free. And then up at the top, again, let's see if I can, there we go. 4 full-length novels. That's going to appeal to a frugal shopper. 4 for 99 cents or 4 for free. We all know that books in KU are not actually free. You pay a subscription. But in shoppers' minds, oh, I paid that subscription, it probably auto-deducted, whenever, and now I get these books for free because I'm not paying for each transaction. These are also the people that are probably going to be your ARC readers, you know, or want those free audiobook codes. If they're not willing to spend, that's okay. Utilize them, put them to work. You know, you cannot force them to review, but more often than not, people are good about that. If you give them, excuse me, if you give them the ARC, more often than not, they will read, they will leave the review. They're also the ones that are going to be eager to get onto your newsletter if you tell them that they will have exclusive access or early information to promotions or early access to scenes from books. But you have to remember that a frugal shopper has basically already made up their mind that they're not going to buy. I don't want to spend that money. I'm, like I said, Uncle Scrooge, I'm taking that money to the grave with me. So you have to convince them to buy. So you need to make sure that those graphics and those ad copies express to them very clearly, very, very quickly that they're going to get, oops, trigger happy finger, that they're going to get what they're looking for, because these are the ones who are going to keep scrolling. If they don't know they're going to get a good deal, then they're not interested. So again, making sure that those price motivators are very clear is going to be very compelling for them. Yes, absolutely. Because if you show them the value, that it was worth the money that they did spend, right? They've already made up their mind not to. If you convince them to buy, that it is worth it, then they will come back to you. But if you don't convince them that it was worth their value, then, you know, no love lost. They move on. But again, they are the easiest ones to attract because they like to see the big free 99 cents, 4 full lengths, right? It doesn't take a whole lot of effort to attract these folks. So they may not be who you spend all of your time and effort on. They're actually pretty low maintenance. Again, looking at the graphic. It doesn't take a whole lot to be able to see free Kindle Unlimited and 99 cents. And it's okay if not every shopper or every reader is your type. Because you are, as much as you are trying to attract the right people, you are trying to repel the wrong people. You don't want the wrong shoppers or the wrong readers. They're the ones that are going to return your books. They're the ones that are going to leave bad reviews. When you are putting up ad copy, you're putting up social media posts, you are attracting people through your back matter to your social media, your newsletter, that is a weeding out process. Lure in the ones you want and let the ones that you don't keep on trucking. And that's okay. Did that answer your question? You're welcome. All right, so your average spending folks. Excuse me. Again, these are the ones, sorry, I made it this far without coughing. Now, we'll see if I can finish up. They are the ones that are willing to spend a little bit more if they think it's worth it, but they tend to have a budget. It's the most common attitude. How many of you would say that you have at least average spending tendencies, where you might shop on a budget, but if you see something really good, you're willing to spend a little bit more? Okay, so for those who can't see, there are more hands up than not. That said, how many of you who are average shoppers or average spending are super brand loyal? Are you going to switch brands if you see a good deal? Are there some things that you are steadfastly, you're always going to get them? And then maybe other things you're like, I'll give it a try if it's a good deal. That is the majority of shoppers out there. It's not everybody, but it is the largest, most common attitude. Well, so let me make sure I'm understanding you. Are you saying that with inflation, you are less likely to try something new if it's higher priced? Okay, so you are still an average spender then, because you... So your product choice changed, but your attitude did not change. That's the whole point of weathering market shifts, that people consistently behave the same across industries, across products. They have their natural tendencies. Now, mind you, life stage can change that. You know, when I was single and working, I bought a lot more brand name stuff. Getting married, marrying into the military, and then having 2 boys definitely changed my attitudes towards shopping because my life stage changed. But overall, most people's attitudes are going to remain the same, and that's why we're talking about this, because when the market does shift, if you understand why people think and do what they do, then you can be prepared to reach out to them where they are, right? So with these average spending folks, you need to make sure that your pitch is pretty succinct. Because if they're not sure that they want to spend the money, right, they might be those dissonance reducers thinking, what if I don't like this? What if it's a waste of money? You got to get to the heart of it pretty darn quickly, right? So these are folks that are going to want reviews. They're going to take advice word of mouth. So here, you see that there is a sale going on, right? So you don't have to do it full price. So the barrier to entry is pretty low. You can see that there's multiple books here by this author. And then in these short few lines, you can see basically a testimonial about these books, just the facts of them, that they are well loved, that they have been around for a while, they are an established product. So if you are thinking about trying something new, here we go. You can maybe spend a little bit more than your budget would allow, but you've got proof that it's worth it. So these are the folks who are already willing to buy. They need a nudge, right? So if the impulsive ones are a shoo-in, they're going to one click, right? And then the frugals are the ones who don't want to spend, but you can make them spend. Your average spending are the ones who want to spend. They just need a little nudge over the edge, a little reassurance. Your spendthrifts. Now, I find this particular category to be rather interesting because they have both hedonistic and utilitarian tendencies. So they want to enjoy things, but they want the greatest good for the greatest amount of money that they might spend, right? So these are the people who you want to appeal to both quality and price, right? So when they are thinking about what do they want next, they want an experience. They're willing to pay more for the experience, but they want to make sure that it's worth it. So they're the ones who are going to appeal, you're going to appeal to with the, you need this because you're going to enjoy this. The you need this is the utilitarian side. You'll enjoy this is the hedonistic side. You can merge and marry those two together. All right, so in this case, this particular review quote, again, let's see if I can find it, taps into this very idea, very first sentence, now, right? It goes on to say why this reader thought it was so wonderful. The idea of treat yourself, that also taps into that hedonistic tendency, right? It might be a bit of a splurge, and you get to escape with this mafioso. It is pulling on the financial heartstrings of a spendthrift. They want something that is also easy to access, right? If you give them the instant gratification of download now, buy now, today only, limited time, right? Feels exciting, feels special. Again, that hedonistic tendency, but make sure that that link goes exactly where you need to drive them. Don't make them play hopscotch because their utilitarian side doesn't want to waste. So really make sure that you have the elements that they want. For them, pricing is not an issue. You don't need to say whether or not this is Kindle Unlimited. You don't need to say whether this is on sale or whether or not it's a discount. That's not what they're into. So that's not something that you need to use up space for. So what all this wraps up to is the idea of brand loyalty, right? So brand loyalty is based upon perception. How do they see you? Because you are your brand, right? What is it that's going to be unique about you? These are the groups that they tend to work best with. Brand affinity is about the consumer's feelings. How do you attract them? How do you get them to connect with you? How do you keep them in the loop? And these tend to work best with this group. So, I'm a former teacher. I like to give out homework, but now that I'm not a teacher, I don't have to grade anything. But I will give you a to-do list. So when you leave here, you are completing your avatar, because again, remember, you can get that worksheet on the Sketch app or on my website. See if you can answer these questions. When you're creating your graphics and your ad copy, are you considering these different types of attitudes and buyer behaviors? One ad does not fit all. One graphic does not fit all. One ad copy does not fit all. And remember, your strategies are to both appeal and repel, and that's okay. All right. So that brings me to the end. We have a couple minutes left for questions, but I work with authors one-on-one, so if you have more questions about these, you want to dive deeper, you want some guidance, please feel free to reach out to me. You can scan the QR code, it'll take you to my link tree. So we have just under 3 minutes. If you have a question, please feel free to step up to the mic.
Hey there, thanks, that was really good. Really interesting. Sorry. I was just wondering, with the different things, would you use like a Facebook dynamic ad and to have like 4 different graphics or 4 different ad copies to appeal to the different people? Or would you run completely separate ads for the different groups?
To me, I am very big on the scientific method. You change one variable at a time, because you can keep making iterations of graphics, and you may have the perfect graphic, but you don't have the perfect ad copy, right? So you might want to try one ad copy and try different, one graphic, try different ad copies with it, right? Or vice versa. One ad copy and then multiple pictures with it. So you could do it either way, technically, but really whatever method you use, only change one variable at a time. And you should have more ease with that if you really think about how you pair up those graphics with that ad copy. If you get the right kind of graphic with the right kind of ad copy, then the testing should go much smoother, right? Because you might have the perfect graphic, you might have the perfect ad copy. They do not do well together, right? They are oil and water together. Does that answer your question? Awesome. Go ahead.
I'm wondering.
Can you step a little bit closer? Thank you.
It's too tall. Hi. I'm wondering about, so we've got the ads that capture the different readers, presumably like on Facebook or BookBub or something, but then they all like go to the same place, whether like I run mine to my landing page that sells my whole series, because I'm direct more than on Amazon. But if you're going to Amazon or you're on a landing page or Shopify or whatever, like, aren't you gonna need to make the sale in a different way to these different people?
So do you mean as far as what the landing page copy is going to say?
Yeah, like wouldn't you make like the argument to a frugal person different than you'd make the argument to a habitual person? But then like how does it also apply to Amazon, because then everyone's just stuck in the same like
if your ad
mold for
copy
Amazon.
has lured them in, then you've already got them on the hook. So when they get to the place where they can buy, they should already be at least 9/10 of the way to the purchase. That's why they clicked over there, right? So if they're dissonance reducing, if they're the ones who are like, I gotta finish it up, so this is the last question. But if they are the ones who are like, I don't know if I'm gonna regret this or not, then those in your description, your product page, whether it's on your landing site or a retailer, the way that you write your description should repel the wrong people just as strongly as they draw them in, right? So when I write my mafia books and I write the descriptions for them, they're very different than my historicals. They're much shorter, much punchier, but it is very clear what type of hero you're going to get, and if you're not down with that, that's okay, move along. So your ads should do that, but if you have strong descriptions on your product page, then it should systematically deal with each of those, right?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, well, if you have any questions and I didn't have time to answer them, please feel free to contact me, and I appreciate your participation. Because when I taught grade school, I had to volunteer, and I didn't have to do that today. So I would warn students, you better have something in mind, because I will get to you. So thank you for participating.